So I think Vivek, now we can start. Making host. So yeah, Vivek, we can start now.
All right, thank you, sir. So guys, within a moment, we are going to start today's session. And today's session is basically on conditional and iteration operation, where we are going to learn about few things like do while thing, means loops, and if else things, and lot of things you need to concentrate on that. All right. So, okay.
On IBMi, and it's more than a year with programmers.io. So today we'll start with conditional and iterator operators. So there are a number of different iterator and conditional operators that will go one by one. So let me share my screen. Please let me know if it's visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, so the first that we're going to cover is the if condition. So what if does, it is used to check the condition, and if it's true, if the condition is true, then the statements in the if block, if an end if block gets executed. So I have a couple of examples for that in the fixed format as well as in free format. So if you can see on this first one, I've declared some variables. OK, and I've evaluated I and j variables to 2 and 3. And if I equals to 2, so if this condition is true, then only this statement will execute. That is between if and end if block, correct? So this was the first example. I can show you this first and then maybe I'll go along with others as well. So I'm calling this program. So it says that inside if. So it says because this condition has been met, that is this condition is true, I equals to 2, true. So this is the if condition in fixed format. Similarly, what I can do, I can write this same if condition in a free format as well. So here if you'll see, I declared the same I and j variable. This is a free format. I've evaluated I equals to 2, j equals to 3. And if I equals to 2, if this condition is true, then display that you are inside if state. So similarly, if I call this program up, so it says that inside if statement. OK, so this is the simple if statement, whether if the condition is true, then the statements between if and end if block will get executed. Now the next one is if xx. Xx means it can be anything. It can be greater than, you can check equal to, you can check greater than. So taking the second example is this one. If you see here, I've mentioned that if I equals to 2, this is the fixed format. OK, if I equals to 2 and j is greater than 2, then display inside end if. OK, so if this condition is met, this statement will execute. It's the only single statement that is between if and end if block. Now if I call this up, so the first one was inside if for the only single if state if conditions, and this is the second one, so inside end if. And similarly, I can write the same way on the free format as well. So it's much simpler than what we have written in on the fixed format. So here if you'll see, if I equals to 2 and j greater than 2, so display this statement. Call this up. The first one is for the inside if, that is a simple if statement. This is if xx, it can be greater than, it can be less than, it can be greater than equal to anything else. OK, so this was about normal if conditions. Now the next one is if else. So what it does, for example, if condition is true, then execute that statement. Or if that condition is not met, then go to the else statement. So the syntax is this way. So here I've declared a variable I. I have evaluated I equals to 2. And now I'm checking if I equals to 2, then display inside if, else it's outside if. Okay. So if I call this up, it will say inside if, because the condition is true in if condition only. Now if I change this, let's say I'm changing uh, if I equals to 2, like, and I'm changing I equals to 3. So now this condition won't be true. Then it will go to the else statement. Now if I save it, I'm compiling it. If you'll see, it will say it's outside if, or you can say it's in else condition now. So this is simple else if else. Now similarly, I can write this on the free format. So this is the syntax how to write in the free format, as most of the programming languages have. I just declared a variable. I've declared I equals to 2. Let me change this also. Now if I equals to 3, go to inside if, else just display that you are outside if, or you are in else condition, you can say. So I'm saving it. Let me compile it and I'm calling it. So it says that it's in outside if, that is in else condition. So this is simple if else, correct? Now the next one is if else and else if. So what you can have multiple conditions in on else if. So I can show you that as well. So this is the program. Now here, if you see, I have variables I equals to 3. Now here I have mentioned that if I equals to 2, display inside if, else if. Here is one more condition, that is if I is greater than 2, then display inside else if, or else display you are in outside if, or you are in else statement, you can say. So now when I see this, when I call this, so if I value of I is 3, so it will go inside this else if statement, which is I is greater than 2. So this condition will be true for value of I equals to 3. So it should display inside else if. So if I call this up, so it says inside else if, correct? Now this is a fixed format. Similarly, I can have the same thing on the free format as well. So the syntax is much simpler. So here I have the same way I have declared a variable I equals to 2. I said if I equals to 3, say inside if, else I equals to 2, say inside else if, else outside if. So here if you'll see, this condition is not getting true. This is also not getting satisfied. Only it will go on the else statement because I equals to is 2. So if I call this up, so it says outside if or in the else statement. So this was simple if else. Okay. Now there are one more conditional operators, that is select. Select is same as if conditions. So here's the syntax you can see. Now here I have same variable I will I equals to 2. Now what I can do, I can write select in here, and you can just, when I equals to 1, you can say display I equals to 1. So there are two ways of writing when. You can give when, and then you can just come on factor 2, you can write this if I equals to 1, or you can give when equal to and give I in this factor 1, and in this factor 2 give the value which you want to evaluate with. So the first statement, it says when I equals to 1, display I equals to 1. And on the second condition, it says if I equals to 2, then display I equals to 2. And if none of this condition matches, other display don't know. Okay, so I'm calling this up. So it says I equals to 2. Now let's say I'm changing some value to 4, right? So it should go on the other conditions. So this is the syntax. You have to start with select, then when, other if you want, and end select. So now it should go on don't know. Now when I'm calling it up, So it says don't know because I equals to 4 and none of the when condition is getting satisfied. So it goes on the other statement. Now similarly, this was the fixed format. I can have the same thing on the free format. So here if you'll see I have written same thing. If I equals to I have evaluated I to 2 and when I'm checking though this is my select statement. This is how you end the select statement and between this select this is the condition. When I equals to 3 display I equals to 3. When I equals to 2 display I equals to 2 and other display don't know. So let me also change this to let's say 3. When I call this up, it should say I equals to 3. So this is simple select. Okay. Now the next one is do condition, do loop, do and do. So here in do and do, it is used when we have to iterate over a block of statements for a specific number of times. So you can say, 6 number of times, 5 number of times. So when you want to iterate some block of statements, some specific number of time, then you can use do and do statement. And I have an example for that as well. So here, if you'll see do, so these are the two variables I and count. I've evaluated count to 1 and I'm saying that, from count 1 to 4, display value of I means until the I is reached to 4, it will display value of I. So you can see it this way. So I started with 1. Now I'm saying till 4 you need to go. And when I gets equals to 4, just end it. I can also change it to, let's say I started with 2. I've right. I have evaluated the value of count to 2. So it will start from 2 to 4. If I compile this up, it starts from 2, 3 and 4. So this is a simple do statement. So it says that how many times you want to perform some specific block of statements, then you can use this and do and do. Now the next one is do until. Okay, so do until loop continues until the loop condition remains false. So whenever the condition is false, it will execute. When it gets true, it will exit of that statement. And there is it is guaranteed to be executed at once because the looping condition is checked at the end of the iteration. So it will go at one time no matter what on the do until statement. Now I have an example. So here you can see I've written this condition as do until count equals to 3. So whenever this condition gets true, it it ends this block and do block. So for example, if you'll see the initial value of count is 0, right? So this condition is false. So it will display. So whenever this condition is false, it will work. When it gets true, it will exit the end do statement. So I'll show you. So if you'll see it started from 0, count I have written do until count equals to 3. So this is 0 is false, it's working. 1 is also false, therefore it's also working. 2 is also false. Whenever it gets true, that is 3. So it exit from that end do statements from do until statement. So this was the fixed format. You can see it. So what I did, just count equals to 3, display count, enable count equals to count plus 1. Now the same thing I can do it in a free format. It's much simpler. So here if you'll see I have one variable I. Now I'm saying that do until I equals to 3, display I equals to I plus 1. Same way. So until the condition is false, it will work. When it gets to, it will execute that end do block. So if I call this up, it says 0, 1 and 2. 3 is true, so it will exit from that block. Okay. Now similarly, we have a next conditional operator is do while. So it's based on the true conditions. So if the condition is not true, it does not enter the loop even a single time. Okay. So this is the fixed format. I'll show you that. Now here, if you'll see, I have written do while until do while when count is less than 3. So initial value of count is 0. So the condition is getting true. So this is the difference between do until and do while. It works on do until works on false condition. This works on true condition. So here count is 0, which is less than 3. Yes, it is. So it will work until 3. Okay. Whenever the condition is false, it will exit that loop. So if I call this up, 0 is the true condition. This is the 1 is also true. 2 is also true. And whenever it reaches 3, it exits that block. Now, same way, I can have this do while condition in the free format as well. So here, if you'll see, I've written do while. It always ends with end do. And these are the execute statements in between that block. So whenever I is less than 3, just display I and I equals to I plus 1. So it will similarly the same output would be there 0, 1 and 2. OK. Now one iterator operator is iter, ITER. What it does, it can be used in do until, do while, for loops to transfer the control immediately off to a loop to a if you want to transfer the control. So it causes the next iteration of the loop to be executed immediately, and it affects the innermost loop. So I have some of the examples for that as well. So this is a fixed format. I've said do until count equals to 3. Now I have put this if statement in between. I said whenever the count is 1, just iter this all. OK, so if you'll see the displays after this if statement. So whenever the count is 1, what happens? The control goes again back to this do while condition, do until condition. So it starts with 0, it should skip 1 and then continue print till 5. So if I call this, so it printed 0. Now because I have a iter statement on condition count equals to 1, so it will skip 1, it will print 2, 3, 4 and 5. OK, so this is the iter statement. You can look at once. So this is the condition for iter. You can have a different conditions. You can have number of iter statements. You can skip on 1, 3 or anything else. Now similarly, if you want to have this on the free format, so this is a much simpler way to write. So do until I equals to 1. Now whenever I is 1, that iter this. And again, go back to do until statement. So it will print from 0 and skip 1. So it starts with 0 and it skips 1. It printed 2, 3, 4 and so on. So this was the iter statement. It only iters that particular loop. Now what leave does, leave will take you, leave will just, you can use the leave with do until, same for loop, and it will take the control, it will transfer the control immediately from the innermost loop to the statement following the end do, means it will exit that whole loop. So I have some fixed examples as well free. So this is the fixed one. So here I have the same thing. I just do until count equals to 6. Whenever the count is 3, just leave whole block. So it leaves this whole block. It takes the control from to end do. So now here, if I'll run this, what it does, it will print from 0 to 2. And I have written that if count is 3, then leave that whole loop. So 2, when it reaches 3, it will exit. You can look at once. So if you'll see, I have a condition like this. OK. Now, same thing I have on free format. If you'll see, I've written same code is there, just it's in free format. I equals to file, do until I equals to file 5. If I equals to 3, just leave this whole loop. If I call this up, it will print 1, 2, and if whenever it reaches 3, it will exit the whole loop. So this is the leave condition and iter condition, that is iterator operators. OK, now the last one is we have for loop. So it's similar to other for languages where you have an initial counter, then you have a final counter, then you have an increment value, and you can increment it by 1, you can decrement by 2, decrement by 2, or anything else. So I have some other examples that you can look. So this was the fixed one. So here if you'll see, I have two variables I and count. I said for count equals to 1 to 5, just display count. So in this for loop, what it will does, it will just display 1 to 5. And in this one, it will increment the value by 2. So by default it's 1, but I've mentioned that I want to increment it by 2. So it will print 1, 2 and 5. So let's see the result. The first for loop will print 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And the second loop, since I've incremented the value by 2, so it will print 1, then will print 3, then will print 5. Okay. So this is for the fixed RPGA code. You can see it once. And same way, you can write this for statement on a free format as well. So here just I've written for I equals to 1 to 5 display I, and for and same I've incremented by 2. So this will give me the same result. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and same way since I've incremented it by 2, so it's 1, 2, 1, 3 and 5. Now one example is I can make this for statement on the decrement way as well. So in the first loop, if you'll see, I have just 1 to 5. I haven't mentioned any increment, so it will increment only by 1. Now here I have said for I 5 by 1 reverse order. If you want to print from 5 to 1, so I have mentioned down to 1. Let me add one more block. We can have down to 2 also. So for example, if I'm copying this and I'm saying down to 2. Now let's compile this up. Okay. Now the first statement is a simple 1 to 5. Correct. And the second statement, it's 5 to 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And on the third block, I have set decremented by 2. So it's 5, then 3. Okay. I need to check this one. Okay, so there are different ways of using this for statement. You can check all these down to 1. You can, here you can write by whatever increment you want the value to from. So these are the different operators. I'm open for questions now if anyone have.
So if have anyone any question, any doubt, so they can put in the check box, or we will answer the same for that. For Richa and all the students who have doubt regarding to assignment, so I will let you know assignment is basically for your practice purpose. Okay, they will help you a lot during the case study. Okay, whenever you're going to assign for a case study, so these assignment help a lot with that. Okay, so you don't need to submit any assignment to us. Case study will submitted by you once the case study will done. Okay, so part of this, anyone have another question? Okay, Prachi, I'm unable to use insert and select command in EMP-PF1 program. Error is showing that not found in library. Okay, Prachi, for that, use you do connect with clinical session. Okay, so you can share your screen and we will resolve that one. Okay, all right, thank you guys. Bye bye, take care. We'll meet in clinical session. Thank you.